I don't know how much it costs, but you can get it on Amazon. And it does have a chapter which is looking at assessment in games and evaluation. If you're buying it for that, to be honest, I wouldn't bother because I've probably said it all this morning. But if you're buying it for all the other fact-filled chapters, then it's probably worth it.
Yeah, put the type in the name, with exact name. Guys, if there's a Amazon jockey around with a URL, put that in, somebody, please. I knew it would be Chad.
Oh, you've done that already? Okay. Brilliant. But I'm very happy to talk to anybody about this, particularly anybody whose questions I know I haven't answered terribly well. I put up the URL for my blog and my email address, and I'm very, very happy for anybody just to drop me a line or Skype me as well for a chat.
Any more questions, guys? Surely. Did you get that, Nick?
Yep, Amanda? And then Chad? Oh, I don't know if Chad's still... Yeah, you've got 30 seconds to think of one.
Chad, do you want to go first?
Okay, just a quick one, Nicola. Do you ever encounter the general resistance against game-based learning or the scoffing or anything like that, and how do you deal with that?
Quick answer, yes. Get lots of resistance depending on who you're talking to. I mainly work with people in higher education, so I mainly get lecturers telling me that it's too much effort. It's a great idea, they like it, but it's too time consuming. Bizarrely, the most resistance that I've had, it all started because I did a whole series of interviews or focus groups with students, and half of the students weren't interested in games. They didn't play games, they didn't want to learn with games. So actually that's where the main resistance seems to be. And when I've overcome that, it's been through explaining to people that actually this is the best way to learn something. So I'm a big proponent of games are great, but only if they're the best way to do it. Using a game to try and motivate people just doesn't actually, half the people won't be motivated by it. And particularly when you start looking at older adults, mature students, women as well, games aren't, even if it's something people play, it's not necessarily something people associate with learning.
So, do you think that we're less inclined to play games?
I think I hate a lot of the generalizations that go around games. Think terms like digital natives, games generation. I think some people like playing games at some point, and some people like playing different types of games. And I mean, again, one of the outcomes from my PhD study was that a propensity to play games for fun is in no way related to an inclination to play games for learning. So we can't make these types of assumptions. Again, one of the other things that came out is that everybody that I spoke to would be willing to play games, in that they're willing to try all different types of learning, but wouldn't be willing to do it just because it was a game. It had to be a really strong reason. And I believe there are really valuable pedagogic reasons for using games, which I hope I've managed to convince at least some of the way towards. But it's about being clear with students. And I think definitely by the time we get to higher education, we can talk to students about how they learn and the teaching methods and what we hope to get out of it and why we're using it. And actually, if students can see a value in using it, then they'll be quite happy to use it. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, I'm just thinking about your answer. I was thinking about women, though, not generalised, but to generalise as well. I've I've actually read that women prefer puzzle-based games rather than competition games, and that if you were designing an educational game, you'd actually build it around that a puzzle concept rather than like a shoot 'em up type concept. What do you think?
I've seen various different surveys done. What tends to come out is that women prefer puzzle type games, strategy games, basic games where you have to think. Men typically prefer shoot-'em-up games. I would argue that for the type, well, again, because my background is higher education, that the types of games that are appropriate for the types of learning we do in higher education will be games that involve thinking. So maybe not puzzles, because they can often not be getting at the higher levels of the critical analytical things, unless they're very well designed, but things that involve puzzlement. So perhaps things that involve role play. Women also typically prefer to play with other people. It's more of a social thing. So role-playing games, strategic games, adventure games, puzzle games, which women might typically more enjoy. Although so many of these surveys are done by self-selecting groups that I think. I mean, in terms of men and shoot 'em ups and women and puzzle games, there does seem to be quite a strong differential. But I think most people will be willing to try most things in education if they're convinced that it's actually more effective than doing it another way. Because sadly, or possibly not, learners are strategic. They want to learn things in an efficient way. And if it's a game, whether it's a puzzle game or a shoot 'em up or whatever, they'll be willing to give it a go. And I think that's kind of my answer, but I may have missed the point. So please get back to me if I have.
Guys, if there's no more answers, question. Sorry, Nick. If there's no more questions, oh boy, you can tell it's the end of my day. If there's any more questions, please ask them, but we need to wrap it up soon. Looks like we've got a satisfied audience here, Nick, and thank you very much on behalf of everybody. They're doing their own clapping. Really great. Next time we're in the UK, put the kettle on.
I will do. And thank you very much, everybody, for and staying for the session. Thank you.